Basically what we covered the early years, and then we covered the issues that relate to Korea and issues that relate to CGE. What I really want to do is to cover about interdisciplinary work, the work with Cynthia Morris, the work with others. And then I'd like to speak about what you think about development economic, where it's going, what you think about Berkeley, the universities. So I don't know how long Sophia will be here.
I'm going to be as long as you need me.
Okay, so.
But Dharma probably doesn't want to do this for like 6 hours straight.
No, we'll do it.
You probably will need some sustenance.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you, Irma.
Okay. Okay?
Yeah, I'm very okay.
Okay.
There's one thing on Korea that I didn't say,
Okay.
and that is the structure of firms. They were conglomerates from the word go, and they were modeled on the Japanese chaebols. But in Korea, they were called J-balls, which Jaebols. And that was one of the strengths of the original development, because firms could shift among the J-balls could shift investment among one branch of industry to a different branch of industry and finance it internally without having to borrow from the banking system.
Now, you also have strong opinion about the other Asian tigers.
The other one?
Asian tigers.
Yes.
So can you maybe tell us what you think about the difference between, let's say, Taiwan, Korea, Singapore, and Japan?
They were at different stages of the same process. Japan was obviously having essentially completed the process. Taiwan had started along the path that I was recommending for South Korea, but had not gone very far. Also, Taiwan had an agricultural potential, which South Korea did not, because of the topography of the South.
Mm-hmm.
And
Singapore
was very much like South Korea. No agricultural land at all, and a very highly educated and highly motivated set of human resources.
Now, how do you feel about China and the prospect of India?
Okay. China is very much following the South Korean development path. And when the Mao and his wife, Mao died and his wife was jailed, and after that they invited me to, with Larry Westfall, to give a set of lectures on the South Korean development process, which distributed among all planning agencies in the country. And it is my opinion that they were following the South Korean path.
In building human capital.
Yeah. And labor intensive. First labor intensive, then human capital intensive, to the last stage being innovation.
Do you see the emergence of a strong service sector in these countries?
The what?
A strong service sector?
No. That's within the family.
You don't see like in Korea or in China. Now, China is some people say that China is too big to be export oriented, and is it done?
Well, it doesn't. See, when it produces sort of simple goods, then it can sell them inside. But when it produces more luxury goods or more or goods that are, like the sorry, I'm losing my train of thought. When it produces goods that are
knowledge intensive?
Knowledge intensive, then, the world market is.
Is good. Now let's go and ask some questions that relate to maybe more personal thing, and then we'll go back. So you are one of the first women that were in a prominent position in economics. And how do you see, can you really see or assess the progress that women make in the profession and how much progress they need to make?
Alice Rivlin was the first prominent woman in economics because she was chairing the council, which I was probably the second and the one in academia, where she was in the
Private business.
Yeah.
But then you have John Robinson.
Yeah, but John Robinson was very different from both of us. And at one point, she was advising North Korea, whereas I was advising South Korea.
Who are you advising now?
Frank said that it's a battle between women.
That's great.
That's what happened in Korea.
This is fantastic.
So he had a great sense of humor, and in fact, in the book, he wrote a haiku poem about me and development. Look at it.
Let me see.
It's right here.
Can you read it, Sophia?
Yeah. The fabric of society. The fabric of society, I say in all sobriety, has a pattern and a texture and design. The warp and the social tapestry, the weave of the nation's polity, and the economy wove to intertwine. When threads one tries to separate, to characterize and differentiate, the strands become entangled in a froth. This inter-societal napery is made into a drapery of pure, untrammeled, integrated cloth.
Now, can we, for example, when we write this chapter, and I ask them if it's okay to put this.
Oh, sure,
Yeah.
sure.
Okay.
I would like you to.
Oh, yes, of course. Oh, okay.
Yeah,
So, anyway, so
I'll write it down. I'll buy
oh,
it.
yes, I know the book. This is the
Okay.
book we sent you. We have it in the library.
Oh, I'm sure you
I'm sure,
do.
yes, I know, okay.
Because I gave,
Yeah, so let's see. So let's see what. Okay, let's see. What page it is?
I find it again.
Yeah,
Don't
I'll
worry.
find it.
We'll find it. Okay,
Yeah.
wonderful. So okay, so actually, since we are here, so you and John Robinson and Alice Rivlin, how things move forward? What happened next? How do you see? Do you see
nothing.
nothing?
Nothing happened next for a good many years.
Mm.
And then when affirmative action started, universities were also covered under affirmative action. And as usual, they tried to get to comply with affirmative action in the cheapest way possible, which means that they hired assistant professors or lecturers rather than hiring associate professors or more. And in my case, they got scared that I was hired as an assistant professor. But the next year they got scared that they would have to promote me sometime to faculty rank, so they changed my rank to lecturer with the rank of assistant professor. Now, lecturers didn't have to get promoted and didn't have to get the 3-year review that the rest of the faculty went through. So that was what they,
Mhm. See, but now there are many more women, and
Oh, yes.
so when the change started, when you really saw when was the turning point?
Affirmative action.
Affirmative action. So you really feel that affirmative action.
Oh, yes, of course.
Mhm. Do you see there is a difference in perspective between men and women economists? Or economic is gender free?
Women are more concerned with social equality and economic equality than men, because women have traditionally been discriminated against. They, in their bones, know the meaning and mechanisms of discrimination. So,
To some, in terms of mode of work, like men try, do you see that in terms of emphasis of theory or applied work, or do you really don't see? or it's an issue of, because you were very technical.
Yeah.
Yes.
I can't think of any prominent women theorists other than Joan Robinson. Can you?
Shannon.
Recent. I can only think of recent.
No.
Chris Shannon,
Chris Shannon.
Susan Athey,
Chris Shannon.
and I'm sure there's
Yeah.
more.
There are more, there are several, but but women on the other end, in terms of emphasis, is more expanded the field. I think if I look at the thing that you did that is really unique, you did a lot of multidisciplinary work when multidisciplinary wasn't cool.
Yeah.
You really, you expanded the range of issues and measurement that are working, that are used in economics. So what led you to develop, and you were one of the first integrators of sociology and economic in a quantitative manner. So what led you to think this way?
I don't know, it came sort of naturally. As Frank says in his poem, if you look at the world rather than at the way the world is modeled, it's all intertwined.
So also, how did you get the intellectual, what was the source of the intellectual knowledge that you used in order to introduce all the sociological index? Were you influenced by some sociologists or by?
Oh, I was influenced by psychologists.
Okay.
And psychologists have the same sort of problem on the individual level that we have on the societal level. And, the econometric, or rather statistical techniques that they developed were the ones that guided me and Cynthia in the yeah.
Mm-hmm. Now, do you see people continue, like there is any continuation of this type of work today?
Sure.
So if you can mention some names.
Although he doesn't give me any credit, Tom Sargent and Hal Varian go in the same tradition. And the woman, I can't think of her, she's in Berkeley in the, I don't know whether it's in the economics department or in the business school.
What field? What field, Irma?
She's interdisciplinary and econometrics.
Brownwin?
Brownwin
Hall?
Yes.
Brownwin Hall. Okay.
So basically, so this type of so it's an economic of innovation, technological change. So a lot of this interdisciplinary.
Yeah.
So what do you think about the way the development economics is evolving today?
Basically, it's confused
In what way?
in the way that economics in general is confused.
Can you elaborate a little bit?
Well, it's kind of Larry Summers versus, what's his name? The one who,
The guy from, the guy from Krugman.
yes,
Versus Paul Krugman. So development economics, is it Paul Krugman or the Larry Summers?
no, it's split.
Split. So I see. So basically, you feel that there is a split without. Between.
Yeah. You know, between the top down and the bottom up, or rather, the middle with a disappearing middle.
I see. So, what is, how do you see it? How can it be resolved? What type of? If you could make a change, what would you do? How would you? What type of research would you like to see happening more?
Well, I would sort of like to see a continuation of
The work
yeah,
the work that is really more reality-based work.
yeah,
Take multidisciplinary approaches. So you think that there is much more emphasis on basic financial considerations
yes.
and
And, you know, that's not necessarily misplaced. However, it depends very much on the structure of firms. And this is changing in developed countries. You know, on the one hand, you have GE that is a chaebol type
company.
structure. On the other hand, you have Ford that is a single product structure.
So Ford is more vulnerable.
Yes,
So you really think that the U.S., for example, will benefit much more from diversify, that it may be that the best way to diversify is within firms.
Allah,
I see, and the approach that you basically try to specialize, basically that stock owner, management by stock ownership is a source of instability. That's what people do. They try to get the maximum of every company rather than. What do you think that if we speak? What do you think about the financial crisis? What was the driver of the financial crisis, and how we'll come out of it? Or,
it very, very much depends on politics in two areas of the world. North Korea and the Korean Peninsula, and the Middle East.
in what way? This is very interesting.
And the reason, and it's all going to become evident within 6 months. You know, so we are in the middle of a potential major economic and political crisis.
In what way? You think that in Korea? No, not in Korea, but but in what way that is a Korean? How you interpret what's going on in North Korea? This is an attempt, a blackmailing attempt to get some. It's a blackmail, or
No, it's rather different. They're not demanding money.
the demand respect.
Yes, definitely. And, you know, not superficial respect, but, you know, genuine respect. you know, electing them to some council or other won't do it. What will do it is genuinely consulting and listening to what they have to say.
You think they would like to see Korea being united, or they like to see,
No.
or they like to be an independent country,
Yes.
but be incorporated in the global
Yeah.
system?
From an economic point of view, there have been attempts to unify the two economies. Right now, they're being put on halt by the North Koreans. But from a political point of view, they really do want to be separate.
So they want to be integrated, and they still need to find a way to be politically separated. And this is their problem, and it's become a global problem, because
Right.
basically what you mean by respect is recognizing the legitimacy of the regime. That is really interesting. So what you, so basically, so they really want to be integrated in the world, but still keep their power. And that, okay, now what do you think about why the Middle East is important and what will happen there?
Well, the Middle East is important because of oil.
Obviously.
And, you know, as long as the rest of the world has a fuel-run economy, they're going to be extremely important.
But why do you think the next 6 months, because of what's going on in Egypt? Or
Egypt,
Iran.
Iran, Israel, Palestine, you know, all of these are potential, I won't say trouble spots, but rather beginnings of international conflagration. And if that happens, you know, all bets are off.
Okay, so now do you feel, if you look at like what we are doing now, if you look at what Obama is trying to do, he tries to develop almost energy independence. The U.S.
Yes.
practically is.
Yeah. And, you know, that's certainly the right way to go, both for the U.S. and for the world at large, because it, you know, lessens the pressure for fuels in the rest of the world.
So what I like to do, I'll write some, basically the main point that I like to emphasize is that that you cannot do economic without understanding politics. And then I can use this two examples. I think that would be great. This would be, then I'll try to do two examples. Now, you were in 3 universities, Stanford.
Yeah, that's what I want to hear.
Stanford, you started in Berkeley, moved to Stanford, then you were in Northwestern, Maryland, and Berkeley.
Hopkins.
Hopkins, yes, of course. So if you can, let's maybe speak and see what you think about all of them, the differences, maybe people.
Or your experience.
It's a great picture. Okay.
Stanford was completely segregated till they hired. However, the economics department was pro-feminist, and in many ways because of the individuals there.
So who was there?
Ken Arrow
Mm-hmm.
was definitely a feminist because his wife had suffered from anti-feminine discrimination. so was Hank Hautaker. Even, and he was responsible for nominating me to chair the Econometric Society meetings, which then led to my election as a fellow of the Econometric Society. Hollis Chenery was a closet feminist, and the reason is because he had a daughter who was she was a close friend of Joan Baez, and she was very, very strongly feminist. And she kept hammering on her father for not being sufficiently receptive to the feminist message and cause.
I think there is a current paper on a researcher that goes and sees how many votes in one of the bodies of legislature are more towards certain causes when the family member of the congressman, I don't remember.
The take of Gaines, yes.
Yeah.
No, that was Cheney. The best example is Cheney.
Okay, yeah.
Not as much as you think.
So who hired you at Stanford? Who was the person that grabbed you and from where? You had done your degree where?
I believe that Mo Abramovich was chairman at the time.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't, you have to check that because I'm not sure.
Mm-hmm. We'll check.
No, he was chair forever. He was a chair for a long time.
And his wife, again, was a very prominent and very good artist, but she was suffering from discrimination in the sense that she wasn't taken seriously in the arts. So, basically the pro-feminist attitude of the Stanford department was all motivated by relationships to women they cared about who were suffering from anti-feminist discrimination.
Oh,
And so then, why did you leave Stanford?
I left Stanford because of Frank.
Okay.
And, I don't know whether I told
we
you.
told us we have.
But we had, when he proposed, I told him that, my major commitment is, and this sounds awfully, shall we say, vain. My major commitment is to humanity rather than to the marriage. And can he live with that? And he thought about it for a moment and he said yes. And, so that kind of freed me to pursue my intellectual and social commitment. But I still had to prove to the profession that I could be as good in the straight and narrow as they were. So first I had to demonstrate that I was a capable econometrician in the lines of the old school. And then I could become free to pursue my broader interests, which I did in society, politics, and economic development with Cynthia.
So you went, so you moved from Berkeley to,
No, Stanford to Berkeley?
from
or-
Stanford to John Hopkins.
To Johns Hopkins.
So how was John Hopkins? Were the people there? How did you like it?
Carl Christ was wonderful. He was
Christ.
chair
Carl Christ.
of the department. And however, when after 2 or 3 years I didn't get a raise, he took me aside and asked him for a raise, and sort of indicated that if I don't get the raise, I'm ready to leave, and which I was. My arrangement with Frank was that we would take turns in who moves the family. And the first turn was his when we moved to DC, and I moved to Hopkins. And the second turn, the turn from there, was to be mine. So, you know. And he said, look, you've got to demonstrate your power in the marketplace by getting an offer from another university. And I said, Carl, that is dangerous if you want to keep me. The offer I get, I might just happen to like. And he smiled sweetly, well, these are the rules. So anyhow, I got an offer from Northwestern, and I really liked that offer, and the reason was because they had an interdisciplinary program, and
This was at Econ?
yeah, but they had the not in econ, but in the university,
Okay.
they had an interdisciplinary group that economists were part of.
You want some water?
I might.
Yep.
Okay.
Oh, get her too.
What's up?
So I'll be okay.
Okay, so great. Okay, wonderful. Okay, this is.
Thank you, dear.
So who did you work with? Okay,
I worked with George Dalton.
George Dalton?
Dalton. He was a student of Karl Polanyi's, and as you know, Karl Polanyi was definitely an interdisciplinary man. I don't know what to call it. His historian or economist. He really wasn't an economist, but he was committed to the view that society is made out of, as Frank says, out of an integrated cloth.
So how did you incorporate history? Like, so you have this book with Cynthia.
Yeah.
How did you incorporate this time?
Well, as usual, things happen by accident, but you know, what kinds of accident you take advantage of depends on your own inclination. Hollis Chenery was offered the position of director of the research division at the Agency for International Development.
So then you started, that really led you to Korea.
Yeah.
Wonderful.
But that also led me to this book. And the reason was that he said, look, there is no research going on here. I want you to stimulate research. So look around in the agency and see what basis for research there is. And I looked around and found the country economic reports. And, you know, since these were reports sent from the field to headquarters, they contain both economic and political and social information. Because, you know, the world is not divided into disciplines. So, you know.
So, yes, where did you know Cynthia? Did you meet her there? Or
I met her there.
At Northwestern.
Northwest?
And she and I hit it off, not only in terms of our social commitment, but also in terms of our personal attributes. We really liked each other. And we had husbands who were supportive of careers. And as you will see from the dedication, which, by the way, we wanted to dedicate the book both to our mothers and to our husbands. But we didn't quite know how to put it, and Frank came up with a suggestion of to our mothers who bore us and our husbands who don't.
That is great.
Which is the dedication of the book.
He's a poet.
Yeah. That is great. That's brilliant. Yeah.
And I've had the good fortune of being associated with the American social elite. Cynthia is the granddaughter of President Taft, and she goes by the name of Cynthia Taft Morris. And Sherman has the privilege of having been related to General Sherman,
Oh, really?
who was, prominent in the North-South.
Of course. So you, okay.
So no, from Northwestern?
So I really don't know. What is Cynthia alive now? She's,
As far as I know,
yeah,
when Alex died, I
You know.
felt that I had to communicate with her and tell her about this. And she sent me an email. So, as of 2 or 3 years ago, she's alive.
So how long have you been in Northwestern?
I was there for 6 years, and I would have liked to be there essentially forever. And the reason, after the move to Northwestern, it was Frank's move. Frank was really not finding a good setup in the Chicago, Illinois area. So it was time for another move.
To DC?
Yeah.
DC again?
Yes, Maryland, yeah. So how long have you been in Maryland?
I can't really think of how long it was. It was something like 2 or 3 years.
But anything that was special or anything that you remember, or that were things started getting bad personally?
Well, I remember, the commute. And how Sherman and I
Oh,
worked together.
I see. So that was when he was in the World Bank at the time, or IFPRI?
Neither.
Where was he?
I'm not entirely sure. That was the time when we started the work on CGEs.
So you must be working with him. You told us that he was a student elsewhere and he came to work with you.
Yeah.
Yes, and he always lived in. And then you moved to Berkeley. So why?
That was your move.
That was
My
my
move.
Hey, good move.
And the reason was that Frank and I separated and later divorced. And the reason was that he was completely stagnant at home. And I had virtually no interaction with him at home. And it turns out, which is something I didn't know, nor did he know, that he had ALS. And after, at dinner, our major interaction was essentially he would ask me how much money I earned. They, from consulting fees and otherwise. And then he would retire to a room which was devoted to his stamp collection. and would start playing with stamps.
So, yeah.
Stop.
So you moved to Berkeley to large extent because that was your original home in the United States?
Yeah,
Did you have a feeling of coming home?
yes,
It's really interesting.
So where
But-
did you move?
but-
Which department?
but
Oh,
see, I had been here when discrimination against women was rampant. So in negotiating for a position on the way back, I was a very tough negotiator
Mhm.
because I felt that the rank that they hired me at and the wage that they hired me at will be fixed forever, which was, you know, my previous experience. Little did I know that by law, they were required to review every individual
I see.
and essentially justify either why the individual had gotten a raise or why he had.
Mhm. Yes, I remember your seminar, I'll never forget it. You gave a seminar, and I remember after the seminar, I don't know if you hear it, Andy Schmidt, who generally was very quiet. Andy Schmidt said, that's it.
we hire her?
It was really amazing because, you know, because everyone, you know, like we need an empirical, and Andy said, that's it. That's the only time ever that someone,
Huh, I didn't know that.
no, it was really interesting. It was when Dean Bose was there,
Yes.
and Alan, it was supposed to be Alan's position. In this case, it was Alan, and
But I was afterwards instrumental in getting Alain promotion.
yeah, no, Alan supported it, but I remember that it was like, there were several candidates, and it was,
She dominated.
and it was so clear that I remember after the seminar, Andy said, that's it. It was so, so funny. No, of course, it was unanimous and everything, yes.
And Mike Hanneman was supposed to be chair of the committee that was writing the reports. And guess what?
No.
She procrastinated.
No, Jim Bose did it. Jim Bose was a fantastic chair. He
But I was in Europe at the
Yeah.
time, at NIAS. And, you know, my choices were to go on Dutch unemployment, which they would have granted me because they were very liberal and I had been employed by NIAS, which was the Center for International Studies, or to go back to Maryland.
But you didn't want.
Well, no. They agreed that they would take me back, but allow me to leave if I got a better position.
I see.
So I wasn't signing my life away.
I see.
So I went back to Maryland and then came
That's
back to Berkeley.
So Irma, where did you get tenure? Which of these universities?
Where what?
Where did you get tenure and at which of these universities?
I had tenure at Hopkins.
At Hopkins, okay. Yeah.
And then she was senior. No, see, we had this unique position. You have to recognize, we have this unique position to hire a senior faculty member. So it was a big deal. So it was really and I remember that it was really funny because it was, it's in the department. It takes debate. It was resolved in a second. It was amazing. Mhm.